Welcome back to our coverage of round number 1 of the Africa Off-Road Championship in Hartbeesfontein, brought to you by N1 4x4 Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts in association with Pirelli. We've already done the kiddies race, we've done the bikes and the quads. It's time to get serious as we get the big bangers out. All of the side-by-sides, the buggies and the buckies going out for the first bit of racing action of the season. And massive entries once again was the theme of round number 1 of the championship. We went down in the pits and saw a couple of old faces and a couple of new faces and talked racing.
My name is Julio Ferreira, come from Botswana. I'm racing by Omza from last year. I did well last year on my championship, and I'm looking forward this year to defend my title. And I'm looking forward as well for my kids that are also riding on the bikes on junior and kiddies. So I would really look forward if there's more people and friends that would like to join us. It's quite friendly to spend time here with some friends, meet some new people.
And that's what it's all about. Family racing, and it's all about the family behind the scenes as well. Berta, Flip's better half, as Flip stands in front of the mic. She's behind all the paperwork, and well done to them. From Pirelli, Mark and Barry Engel just getting the big high fives going and enjoying what it is to be part of the Africa Off-Road Championship Series racing family. As always, a little bit of a driver's briefing to tell the riders and drivers what they are in for, and if they haven't got their Pirelli tyres on, they can go get hooked up there with Mark and the boys. Everyone getting in the queue then, and it was going to be the start line scenario. A lot of new names was the theme of this event, and a couple of probably very experienced names were starting to come to the front. Werner Mostert and Henny Deploy, they've been really one of the crews in charge of promoting the side-by-side format of racing, and the G24 was going to be once again going out there and opening up the track as point 1. Vickers Haasbroek alongside Marco Solmonson would be doing the chase down. Slightly different format of vehicle, narrower track, more suited to a slightly more technical track, but I tell you what, in a straight line, this thing has got some ponies. The Class Ps would always be a category to watch out for at an event like this. The P5 of father and son Jacco and Jan van Aert. Third wheel to set off, and you would expect them to try and close things up on the side-by-sides early on. The Class P category we saw last year throughout the 2017 championship. Class Ps was going to be extremely hard fought. Tion Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock would also be doing the chase down on one of the older versions of the Class B championship as well. And the Class Bs boasted something like 15 entries. So the Class B was going to be an absolute war of attrition as the race started to wear on. For the time being, the 31 was going to be running out front. The B38 of Herman and Karen Combrink, very solid riders, a couple of podium places for them in the latter half of 2017, and they'd be hoping that whatever work they'd done on the machine in the off-season would be working out for them. Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks would go out in the B1, and this had to be a massive threat of a vehicle and pairing going out into the fields around Hartbeesfontein. The B1 showing they are former championship winners, so they've got a marker on their back. We caught up with these guys before the event, father and son pairing Julio and Ethan Ferreira in the P1, and again, the P category was going to be a tricky thing to watch out for. The LoadNet boys in good form again at the last quarter of the 2017 season. A very tight and technical, pretty slow start to the lap at Hartbeesfontein, but it did open up round about the 20k marker. Ando Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg in the F1, and the F category would show 2 entries. Ando Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg getting chased down a little bit later on by Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann in the F2. We'll see how those guys can manage a little bit later on, but remember, they will have a little bit of inside knowledge on the track. Sparks Morrison, love to see one of the old school Sandmasters coming out, and this racing in the B category, but as you'll see, a little bit thin in the cockpit, meaning it is a single-seater, driving, navigating, everything all in one. At this point of the queue as well, they start to do the chase down together. Johan Besson would be doing the chase down, and then a little bit later on, we'll be bringing on Wolf Peter Fomfai as Peter makes his trip across and joins us as part of the Africa Off-Road Championship. He'll be a big threat. Johan and Jason Mitchell will be doing the chase down in the P27 for the P category. You'd think that they would be able to run a similar kind of pace as drivers like Grant Watkins and see if they can try and climb the ladder. Andre Vermeulen and Johan Fourie in the ice cream truck, they like to call it, a version of a Land Rover. And you'll see what I mean when I say a version of very highly modified Land Rover. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron will go out in the B22 in their Subaru colors. Unfortunately, not Subaru handling just yet. Aggressive start though, nonetheless. And you'll find that with some drivers, they do like to attack the first couple of kilometers to get themselves in the zone, get that heart rate up, and really just start getting excited about going out and racing. Mixing things up a little bit further down the pack than one of the side-by-sides. It's going to be a fun day for Johan Pienaar and Eddie Lowe in the G19. They'll be catching up with a couple of the slower Class B and Class P competitors around about the halfway marker of the race and seeing if they can make some passes. But you'll notice with the side-by-sides, no screen for them and very, very close proximity. So you've got to be good buddies to go out and racing as you're going to be rubbing elbows the whole way through the day. Billy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann then rolling out the old school. This is one of the old Ford Bantams with a high-rise kit on it. And going to go see what they can do. They've done a lot of work on this car over the last couple of seasons and still running in the Action Ford colors. It'll be exciting to see if they can get themselves up and challenge for a top 5 position. This is going to be a crew we'll watch out for because they show extremely strong pace before they came to this race in testing. Nalda and Alisma Pieterse in the G97. They're going to be one of those crews that I'm famous for saying will plow the field, and that is make more overtakes than any other crew out there to try and challenge for a win. Out of Graven Motorsports, LC Diacha and Nico Killian. They've also done a lot of late season testing. A former national championship racing car, and cool to see it coming and dusting itself off for the 2018 season as part of round number 1 for the Africa Off-Road Championship. They'll get chased down from the guys from PE. That's right, PE. They make the trip up and join us every single time we go racing in the P9. And that's Grant Watkins and Paul Moret, one of the multiple entries in the Class P Championship. They should be the class of this field. They're going to have to do a big chase against the P27 of Johan Mitchell and Jason Mitchell. On timing and scoring, they normally run extremely close. This is the unknown factor in this format of racing, but known as an extremely strong racer in his own right, and probably the man with the most experience of single-seater off-road racing in the country. Welcome to Africa Off-Road Championship Racing, Wolf Peter Fonfai. Brendan Martin has got some big shoes to follow, but I'll tell you what, if he can get onto the back wheel of Fonfai in the early running, you should be able to drag him through the field and really get him on point. Ockert Haasbroek and Johan van Rensburg go out in the E category. The E category is a category that we're going to be trying to grow. Some of the older buckies and lower powered spec vehicles, but at the same time extremely cheap to spec and cheap to line up and go racing. So we hope to see more of the Class E's coming and lining up a little bit later on. Blurring the line between buggy and side-by-side is the B12 of Jaco Esterhuizen. He goes out there and he's going to see what he can do to try and climb the ladder and get himself on point. He goes in seat with Christopher Mitchell. Johan Bloom in the C category. Very few of the C categories still kicking around nowadays as well. And that's Johan Bloom. He's going to be out there by himself. You can see he's on the right-hand side, so he runs sans navigator. In other words, no navigator. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Jeremy and Christopher Mitchell in the B21. They are strong competitors, and I'm expecting to see them try and climb the ladder. A low start line position is going to hold them back on lap number 1. But when they get to open up the taps on lap number 2 with a bit of clear air, they should be able to run numbers. Colleen Croshaw and Marianne van Skalkbeek, a new pairing, joining us as part of the Africa Off-Road Championship. And again, that has been the theme of round number 1. Lots of new pairings, new faces, and new vehicles lining up to start out a brand new season of racing. Jaco Rousseau on the B46, single-seater, goes out and tiptoes his way through the first section. Flip Velman, our very own man with a plan, the guy who is behind this championship format of racing for Africa Off-Roads, likes to go out there once everyone is gone and done and dusted and see how many people he can make feel bad about themselves. See who he can chase down and pass in one sprint lap of racing. Go have fun, Flip. Have a jaw. Alec Abbott is going to be our final car going out of the paddock before we go out into the fields, and our camera crew catch up with the drivers around about the halfway marker of lap number 1. So Alec Abbott, good luck. We'll see you out there in the fields. So that's a nice start line cue done and dusted. Everyone out there into the fields. Join us after the break as we pick up on all the racing action from the fields around Hartbeesfontein.
Coming up, American trucker goes fishing.
That's what I'm saying. Now that's a fish. Holy smokes!
Well, that's because you want fresh fish. And I'm not talking fresh from your grocer. I'm talking like swimming, as in yesterday.
It's so fresh, it's just stopped flopping a little while back.
That sea bass is wanting to get to Las Vegas.
Of course, you know it's gonna take some big rigs.
You're the fresh fish truckers of the interstate.
In this case, multiple rigs, multiple shops, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's so ridiculous. You have no idea.
Oh yeah, it's all gotta happen in one day.
Let's give it a look. Come on now.
Mwah!
Oh, yeah.
Today on Living the Low Life, it's the car club that many say started it all. The Dukes began with one family in Southern California, and now, with over 4 decades under its belt, the club is 35 chapters strong.
We need to get into the history here.
And they have one heck of a motto.
Dukes don't die, we just multiply.
Welcome back as we continue our racing. Before the break, we sent out all the cars, buggies and side-by-sides to the fields around Hartbeesfontein for round number 1 of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Series. Brought to you by N1 4x4 Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts in association with Pirelli. And out front, there was no change as Mostert was starting to stretch away with Haasbroek and Salmonson trying to close them down. The big movers, though, were going to be Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks, who had started to find the open felt round about the halfway marker of the field, all to their liking. And they were doing a great job to stay in a number 3 position, but lead on their category. This little ravine here was causing problems. Julio Ferreira made his way through. The Pieterses and Johan Besson, everyone was hooting, but the big chargers were Pieterse in the side-by-side. They'd started in the last quarter of the lineup and were now challenging for a top 10 placing overall. They'd got through on Tehran, they'd got through on the Van Rensburgs and Vermeulen pairing in the F1. And that side-by-side was on an absolute flyer. Sparks Morrison was looking for a good result in the B61 as he went over the blind crest. One of the cars that sits very, very low. And he'll be a little bit blindsided trying to figure things out on his own. No navigator to spot the markers. He's got to do it all himself. Johan Pienaar and Eddie Lowe, no problems for them. Same problem for the ice cream van. They are out there running in the B14s. Slightly stretched on the wheelbase for that thing as well, so it's going to be nice and agile in the high speeds. The E44 of Haasbroek and Van Rensburg doing a nice job. And a change up at the front, a little bit further on in the lap. Vickers Haasbroek had taken over the lead. Mostert having problems. And the Pieterses were now up into 3rd place in the side-by-sides and 3rd overall. Going out onto the next lap then, it was going to be side-by-side racing for the win and the G category victory. And what a drive, what an incredible drive. It is going to be fun to see who comes out with this one. Walker in a nice position. The Graven Motorsport Toyota just behind of De Jager and Killian. They've had an incredible drive so far in their Class S vehicle. And they should be able to walk away with it. Johan Besson having his own problems as he came into the pits to try and get his car out onto the second lap. Watkins and Paul Marais, they've been in the seat together for many, many years. They know exactly what to do. Julio Ferreira squeaking the brakes as he goes on out there. And this is one of the stories. Wolf-Peter Funfai with Brandon Martin. They're doing some formation flying. So that is for the win in the Class Bs as well. Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann, change of colours and a little bit of a pickup of pace going out into the 2018 season. They are now charging and trying to walk away with a Class F victory. They've got through on Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg, who set off a couple of cars in front of them on lap number 1. The ladies still doing a cracking job. Colleen Croshaw and Mariana van Skalkwyk in the B101. They'll be on point if they can keep up this pace with one of the best drives they have ever seen. Out front, still race leaders, but you saw that long shot there, and our cameraman doing an incredible job to open up the lens and show how close it is out front for the top of the race and the win in the G category. That's around about 15 seconds by our eye, and they'll be looking into each other's eyes at the crisscross there. So they're having their own little in-house battle. The Class B looks like one hand on the trophy already for Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks, as they have really kept their noses clean and had a stellar lap number 1. Early race leaders and the man who went out and actually opened up the track on lap 1, Werner Mostert and Henno Deploy in the G24. Problems just towards the end of lap number 1 held them back. They look like they've got themselves back on point and will be chasing down on the leaders, trying to get themselves back into contention and stay away from the P1 of Julio and Ethan Ferreira, who are also in sublime form at this point. Brendan Martin has got a wheel in front of Wolf-Peter Funfai, and that battle for Class Bs has only just begun. Johan Pienaar and Eddie Lowe, they started quite a long way down the pack after a low qualifier ranking coming out of the 2017 season, but they are on point for a top 4 overall in the G category. That's the side-by-sides, as they have got through the pack quite nicely. Grant Watkins and Paul Murray in the P9. They look like they are trying to close things down in the P category. They've got to catch up and make the pass on the Ferreiras in the P1 machine. Funfai in the mix there. Johan Besson. The B category and P categories, for me, that is definitely going to be the big war. And unfortunately, Johan Blum, one of our late entries in the C111, having to get towed on home. Haasbroek and Solmonson in the G21. Guidance as they cross the railway stripes. And we'll try and get the opener shot as they come across. Nalda and Elisma Pieterse have closed the gap but have not been able to make the pass. This is a great drive for Tian Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock as well in their B category 31 machine. And the P's looks like it is controlled by the Ferreiras. Not too far from the finish now as well. What a great drive for the Class F. In fact, one of the highest finishes we've seen in the Class Fs for Fellman coming through there. Flip Fellman just having an incredible drive there. He'll be able to park up the yellow peril at the end of this one. But he has really plowed the field quite nicely, and he's got such a good setup, a good feel for this car, and you just start getting more comfortable and faster as the years tick off. Elsie Diacha and Nico Killian haven't had too much seat time in the Graven Motorsport Toyota, but they look like they've had a great day in the saddle nonetheless. Werner Mostert and Henno Deploy in the C24 continue having problems there, but they're not going to be able to walk away with the win. It is going to be a B category win for Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks though, and by my count the highest ever single-seater finish, second place for Wolf-Peter Funfai. Philly Fellman and Cornelius Niemann come through with a nice win in the Class Fs in the F2, and Johan Besson will come home with a high finish in his B machine. Pienaar and Lowe come on home, Haasbroek and Van Rensburg, and smiles all around at the end of the first event of the season. Colleen Croshaw and Marianne van Skalkwyk, great drive, new pairing. Welcome to the racing family. You guys are hooked. What a great day of off-road racing in Africa. Jaco Rousseau comes on home in the B46. He'll see if he can challenge for a position, and Grant Watkins confirms his high position in the P gate. The ice cream machine, the ice cream van as they like to call it, is home. Prinsloo and de Kock. And again, that overnight rain really helped us out. Here's a breakdown of the categories then coming out of the first event. And the big story was the Class B's confirmation after the race. Wolf-Peter Funfai and the single-seater winning out ahead of Johnny Walker and Etienne Marks. The gap in the end, round about a minute. Great drive for Wolf-Peter Funfai. It was Johan Besson with the third place finish ahead of Brendan Martin. In the Class E's, it was Haasbroek and Jens van Rensburg taking the win. In Class F, Willy Fellman and Cornelius Niemann. The Bantam is back. In the Class G's, it was Werner Mostert and Henno Deploy that eventually got their win with a come-from-behind drive, and the Peterses unfortunately having late race problems. Class S was Diacha and Killian. P9, and that's Grant Watkins and Paul Murray. And after the race, we went down and caught up with a new team lining up to come racing with us.
Hi, I'm Colleen Croshaw, riding B101, This was our first race today. We enjoyed it very much. It was a lovely route, and we just like to thank Nashua and Rustenburg Engine Centre, and then a special thanks to my father and my husband for putting this car together for us. For this, it's great. It's working wonderfully.
And then I want to thank my husband and Arthur as well. And then Colleen, she's a hell of a rider.
Africa Off-Road Racing!
Africa Off-Road Racing!
And if you like this, join us for round number 2. It's going to be at Zerost on the 24th of February. We'll bring you all of that racing action. So keep an eye out and stay tuned.